all day long.
Yes.
People going, through the house. And there's just this sort of love that just doesn't stop.
Graceland has long been wrapped in mystery, spoken of in hushed tones by fans and insiders alike. Yet nothing, absolutely nothing, could have prepared the world for what was uncovered beneath Elvis Presley's iconic mansion. After nearly 50 years of secrecy, a door that had remained sealed since the king's death was finally opened. This wasn't just an old storage room or forgotten space. It was the basement, a place long whispered to be off-limits for reasons no one could ever quite explain. What was found down there went beyond shocking, it defied reality. There were artifacts frozen in time, handwritten notes from Elvis himself, unreleased recordings, and something alive, something no one had anticipated. This wasn't just a discovery, it was a revelation that tore apart everything we thought we knew. Because when the basement door finally creaked open, someone, or something, was already inside. Everyone thought Graceland was just a house, a museum, a tribute, a place where time stood still, glowing with the memory of a music legend. But far below the velvet ropes, beneath the jungle room and the gleaming gold records, something was silently waiting. Untouched. Undisturbed. Deliberately ignored for nearly half a century. Since Elvis died in 1977, Graceland became hallowed ground. Millions of fans walked through its halls, whispered their love at the gates, and left flowers at his grave. Tour guides spoke about his legacy, his family, and his final days upstairs. But one part of the house was never mentioned, never shown, never acknowledged. The basement wasn't just overlooked. It was erased. No tours went there. No maps included it. No photos existed. Even longtime staff reportedly avoided it. The official story? It was preserved for privacy. But that wasn't the truth. Whispers among insiders hinted at something far more unsettling. The door wasn't locked from the outside, it was locked from within. And no one ever explained how. Then, in early 2025, after nearly 5 decades, the lock gave way. What they found wasn't just private. It was unthinkable. And it left only one chilling question: did Elvis ever really leave? It all began quietly, with a whisper, then a press release. Graceland officials framed it as routine, basic renovation work, structural updates, preservation efforts. Nothing unusual. Nothing worth attention. But behind closed doors, it was anything but routine. This was a full-scale emergency. Panic met protocol. Confidential memos spread fast. This wasn't about paint or pipes. It was about opening something that had been deliberately sealed for 48 years. A discreet team was brought in. Not your average workers, these were elite specialists, historians, preservation experts, security professionals, all under strict NDAs. They came equipped not just with tools, but with state-of-the-art scanning gear and containment equipment. Their mission: to enter the basement, the one place even Elvis's closest circle had quietly avoided since 1977. The entrance was hidden behind a false wall, leading to a narrow staircase. Dust filled the air. The wallpaper peeled like brittle leaves. Every step echoed too loudly. The air grew heavy, not just with age, but with memory. And the silence wasn't calm, it vibrated, like the house itself was holding its breath. At the bottom, a single bulb dangled from a frayed cord. In its faint light, they saw ghostly shapes, furniture under thick sheets of dust, a vintage turntable still holding a warped vinyl, a pair of Elvis's iconic sunglasses resting on a crushed velvet cushion. Then they saw a door, just slightly open. No lock. Just waiting. And from behind that sliver of darkness, something moved. Was it a person? An animal? A hallucination? Or had someone truly been there all along? What they uncovered left the entire team stunned. It was the hidden TV room. Stepping inside felt like entering a moment frozen in time, not recreated, not restored, but left exactly as it was. The legendary TV room fans had only heard rumors of suddenly became real. Often mentioned in passing, referenced in books, but never shown, until now. Elvis had been known for his obsession with the news, and there they were, 3 vintage TVs lined up in a row, facing a low couch. All intact. All quietly glowing with static, as if waiting for their owner to return and tune in once more. The decor left no doubt, it was pure Elvis. Bold black and yellow walls, mirrored ceilings, shag carpeting, and, most striking of all, a vivid lightning bolt stretched across the far wall, reflecting the iconic TCB motto, taking care of business in a flash. This wasn't just a room, it was a living snapshot of his personality. A stack of old magazines, their covers yellowed with age, rested on a side table. Empty soda bottles collected dust beside a worn ashtray. A pair of loafers sat near the couch, facing the television, as if the owner had just stepped out for a moment. Nothing was staged or planted, no mysterious messages, no hidden journals, just the quiet presence of Elvis, preserved by absence. Then, just as the teen was adjusting to the eerie stillness, something changed. A creak echoed from beyond the far wall. It wasn't the random groan of old floorboards or the faint drip of aging pipes. This sound was slow, measured, intentional, footsteps. And they were coming from the direction of the pool room, the room suspended in time. The pool room was perhaps the most visually captivating and enigmatic space in all of Graceland. Unlike any other part of the mansion, this room was not simply decorated, it was transformed. Every surface, ceiling to floor, was wrapped in pleated, multicolored fabric, swirling hypnotically in shades of blue, gold, and burnt orange. The effect was dreamlike, frozen in 1974, and bold to the point of surreal. This was Elvis's inner sanctum, a private retreat where he could shoot pool, laugh with close friends, or simply vanish from public view. It was deeply personal, and completely his. When the restoration crew entered, something in the atmosphere shifted. Time didn't seem to have passed, it felt suspended. The pool table stood exactly where it always had, felt intact, balls perfectly racked as if a game had just been interrupted. The lighting fixtures flickered on with restored power, casting a warm amber glow over the rich textures of the room. Cue racks, leather chairs, even unopened packs of cigarettes remained untouched, preserved like artifacts. The room was pristine, unnaturally so. Then someone mentioned the silence. It wasn't ordinary quiet, it was the heavy, chest-deep stillness found only in places long abandoned. There were no dust trails, no footprints, and yet the state-of-the-art security sensors in the basement hadn't detected a thing. No alarms had gone off. Something didn't make sense. That's when the rumors began, not about the past, but about something, or someone, present. Could the room really have sat untouched for almost 50 years? Or had something been quietly watching from the shadows the entire time? What happened next wasn't supernatural, but it was just as disturbing. No ghostly figures appeared, no cold spots or whispering voices, but the atmosphere shifted all the same. As the team moved carefully through the pool room, checking for structural issues, one technician noticed a flicker of motion, quick and silent, just at the edge of their vision. This wasn't imagination or a trick of the light. It was real. No one stepped forward. No shape emerged from the darkness. But hidden behind a sagging curtain and a warped panel of decorative molding, they discovered something much more unexpected, a passage. Narrow and low-ceilinged, it led into an area absent from every official record, no mention in the Graceland tour guides, estate blueprints, or even internal schematics used by the maintenance team. Lifelong staff members were stunned. No one had ever seen it before. At the corridor's end lay a sealed chamber, its entrance buried in layers of dust. Inside were dozens of crates, taped shut and marked with inventory codes dating back to the late 1970s. The air was heavier here, thick with history. Within those crates were personal items thought to be long gone, Elvis's books, his clothing, napkins with scribbled notes, a box of 8mm home movies once passed down through families. And neatly arranged nearby, a series of reel-to-reel audio recordings, each labeled by hand and untouched for nearly 50 years. Security and estate historians were brought in immediately. Phones were silenced, and the area was locked down. What was on those tapes, and what other secrets might lie among the belongings, remains a mystery, never shared with the public or the press. But one crew member, who later spoke anonymously, described what they heard on the first tape, something deeply personal, intimate, and haunting in its familiarity. It didn't feel like a performance or a rehearsal. It felt like a man speaking into the emptiness, trying to leave behind one final message. And with that, an unsettling question surfaced, one no one dared to ask out loud. Was Elvis attempting to communicate something from deep within his own home? Following Danny's revelation after the basement was unsealed, archivists began to form a clearer understanding of what that hidden space truly represented for Elvis. Evidence indicates he spent a great deal of time there in his final years, not merely to unwind, but to withdraw. This wasn't just a casual lounge or entertainment room. It was a deeply personal refuge. Vinyl records, personal writings, and vintage audio gear were carefully organized, almost as though Elvis had preserved them himself. Among the most compelling discoveries were multiple locked cases filled with handwritten journals, sealed letters, and reel-to-reel tapes marked only by dates, some from mere weeks before his passing in August 1977. Experts believe these materials were never meant for public release. They might be Elvis's most intimate recordings, his reflections, thoughts, or possibly even confessions that he never planned to share. While there's no official claim that he feared being watched, Elvis's known distrust of the media, the government, and parts of his inner circle has been well documented. What's evident now is that the basement didn't just contain memorabilia, it held the private, unfiltered side of a man the world believed they fully understood. And only now, nearly 50 years later, is that side beginning to emerge. News of what was uncovered spread quickly, first through whispers among collectors, estate staff, and music historians, then rapidly to the general public. Graceland management acted fast, releasing a carefully constructed statement. It confirmed that a previously closed-off section of the basement had been reopened as part of ongoing preservation and structural efforts. Officials described it as standard and routine. But those who had actually seen what lay inside knew it was anything but. The public was informed that vintage pieces had been found, retro gadgets, themed decor, and some of Elvis's personal effects. Some of these items, the statement noted, might appear in future displays, perhaps even a new exhibit. However, when questioned about the more sensitive materials, his handwritten diaries, unopened crates of private correspondence, and most notably, the audio tapes, Graceland's spokespeople gave no further answers. No schedule. No promises. Only silence. And as that silence lingered, speculation only grew. What exactly was captured on those tapes? Were they spontaneous ramblings, heartfelt confessions, or carefully crafted words meant to be heard long after he was gone? Was Elvis recording a secret farewell, intentionally or not, that was meant to stay hidden until the world was ready to understand? So far, none of the full recordings have been shared with the public. Only scattered rumors, brief leaks, and vague clues have surfaced. But even in that limited glimpse, something is becoming crystal clear. That basement wasn't just a forgotten corner of a famous mansion. It was a place of memory, mystery, and meaning. Elvis's voice, raw, thoughtful, and unguarded, is finally reaching us from below. And nearly 5 decades later, it's being heard for the first time. The world is now paying close attention. With news of the basement discovery continuing to spread, a fresh surge of interest has swept across the Elvis fandom. Loyal followers, music researchers, and even longtime skeptics are turning their focus back to Graceland, not for nostalgia, but in search of real answers. What did Elvis actually leave behind in that basement? Was it carefully curated or simply forgotten over time? Most importantly, how much of it will be made available to the public? According to sources within the estate, parts of the basement have now been resealed as preservationists and archivists begin the painstaking task of cataloging everything that was found. No unauthorized access is allowed. But one thing is beyond question, Elvis Presley's legacy still holds untold stories. They weren't erased. They weren't misplaced. They were lying in silence beneath Graceland, waiting for the right moment to be uncovered. And whether what's next is another tape, a letter, or a frozen moment in history, it has the potential to rewrite what we thought we knew about the king. So, what do you think Elvis was hiding? Was Danny being honest, or could this be part of an even larger mystery? Share your thoughts in the comments, and if you're eager for more astonishing revelations from Graceland and beyond, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. The king may be gone, but his hidden truths are only beginning to emerge.